Okay, so this is just a quick one, and it's about the general election tomorrow. Calm down a bit from my previous video because I was pretty worked up about that. The issue I mentioned to do with the Sun and the tabloids and so on. Anyway, politics is still on my mind, and I read an interesting article that quoted Nick Clegg saying that if either the Conservative or the Labour Party choose to go for a minority government, we will probably see another general election before Christmas. That would mean that we will have a repeat of 1974 when there was a February and October election. Because the February election, I think what happened was the Conservatives under Edward Heath had won, but he went for a minority government, and by the time of the second general election, Wilson beat him. So let's say the Conservatives win tomorrow, but with a very, very, very close margin, and David Cameron decides to go for a minority government, which presumably there would be pressure on to do from Tory Old Guard, then I can envisage that Nick Clegg's speculation would be right, that there would be a second general election before Christmas. And I'm not sure if that would go down too well with the public because it would be a bit, it would be like Mayweather Pacquiao rematch. There would be skepticism. Sorry to keep bringing that into all the videos I make, but these issues are both on my mind at the moment. Anyway, I want to just outline my speculation about what's going to happen tomorrow. This is not about my views about policies. This is simply about what I think might happen. A month ago, I would have thought that the margin would have been in favour of the Conservatives and David Miliband, but I think Ed Miliband has performed very strongly in this campaign. There's been no major gaffes. A little bit of a gaffe yesterday from one of his aides, Lucy Powell, who said that he couldn't guarantee what was in that granite stone he died limestone, I should say, unveiled in Hastings to all of his election promises. And then he sort of contradicted that. But there hasn't been any major sort of embarrassing moments in this election for any of the party leaders, like on a really big scale. Um, so that's a good thing for them. And, it's an observation. What I think is going to happen if people, if the question is between Conservative and Labour, I really, really, really don't know. But for the sake of argument, I'll say Labour might get marginally more seats, and it's going to be incredibly close. If I had to loosely speculate, I would say something like Labour on 290, the Conservatives on 285 seats. I believe it will be that close. I believe one of those parties might be tempted to go for a minority government. The problem is they've both spent so long attacking each other on the SNP that neither of those parties could possibly even contemplate bringing in the SNP to their government. I mean, the Tories have said, vote Ed Miliband, you get the SNP. In Scotland, Labour are saying the same thing, vote SNP, you get the Tories. So both parties are sort of playing off each other with the SNP, and I'm sure Nicola Sturgeon is loving it because it's getting her party more attention. A Spanish friend of mine actually pointed out that if we bring the SNP into a coalition government, and I'm a staunch unionist, so I'm wary of that idea, but the argument would be that if they're integrated more into the United Kingdom system, there's less chance of them pushing for a second referendum on independence. Nicola Sturgeon has said she accepts the result, but she has refused to rule out a second referendum, which can only indicate that that is her ultimate goal. I mean, she is a nationalist politician. Um, Same with Leanne Wood. Their ultimate goal is the independence of Scotland and Wales, respectively. Doesn't matter what they say on social policies, that is their fundamental ultimate goal. Scottish National Party. It's in the name. It's their ultimate goal. Um, I think where Nick Clegg was the kingmaker in 2010, Nicola Sturgeon is going to be the kingmaker tomorrow. We know that the next prime minister is either going to be Ed Miliband or David Cameron. In fact, I got the Economist today, If you don't know, this is a British political current affairs magazine, and it's a slightly cynical cover, but I bought it because I thought it was interesting. Choose Cameron on one side, Miliband on the other. Risk the economy or risk Europe. Now, that relates to the idea that a lot of people are wary about Labour on the economy, and a lot of people are also wary about the Conservatives on Europe. The Conservatives are wary because they want, a lot of Conservatives want Cameron to hold that referendum, and those on the left don't want us to pull out of Europe. So, in other words, there's risks with both men. I think Ed Miliband has performed very strong in this campaign, and I think that might work in his favour. But the question is, will it be enough? Now, like I mentioned, the Sun had a pathetic headline earlier. I don't know what sort of influence that could possibly have. I do think the Sun is less powerful than it used to be. That's good news. But the bad news is there's still a lot of naive people who get taken in by that sort of shit. And it's nothing to do with partisanism. It's to do with the fact that that shouldn't be a major political issue. It just shouldn't. It's a non-issue how someone eats their sandwich. I mean, it's ridiculous. But and what about the other parties? Well, people are saying the Lib Dems are going to be wiped out. I think they're exaggerating. I think the Lib Dems are going to suffer. I think they'll go down from 57 seats to maybe, if I had to put a guess on it, between 25 and 35. But I don't think they're going to be wiped out. I think they're going to have a really tough night. I don't think Nick Clegg will lose his seat. I think it will be close. I think he'll survive by a narrow majority, but the Lib Dems, whatever way we look at it, are going to have a tough night. But I don't think it's going to be the wipeout that people are predicting, because the British people are actually more objective than they sometimes seem. What I mean by that is sometimes it can seem that people just complain and they're very cynical, but actually sometimes the British people can be quite fair-minded, and I think a lot of people will think, well, they will look at Nick Clegg and think he's taken a lot of personal criticism, sometimes bordering on outright vitriol. He's had quite a rough 5 years, and he still managed to be very confident and appear as a strong leader. And that will have an impact on how people vote. Um, I don't think, obviously, there's going to be people that hate Clegg and won't vote for his party, especially students, and there will be a lot of people who feel let down. On the other hand, I think paradoxically, it might actually attract some new support from people who have a newfound admiration for Nick Clegg's tenacity. That's my own theory. And actually, I say that because I'm one of them. I have actually admired the way Nick Clegg has handled a lot of this insofar as his toughness, his tenacity, and his patience with the sheer level of vitriol he's had to face. Because I think a lot of it is unfair. But anyway, I'm going into a political realm there, and I did say this was just about my speculation about the outcome. I think the Greens will do quite well. I don't think they're going to be any major force. Will they get seats? I think Caroline Lucas will probably keep her seat. Will they get up more seats? Possibly one or two. I wouldn't want to name any specific seats that might happen, but I think they might do reasonably well. But I don't think they're going to be a major force. Again, UKIP, they'll do better than 2010. That year they got, I believe it was 990,000 votes. If I was to speculate, I would say they might get 1.5, 2 million votes. But UKIP kind of went from, they're having something of a similar experience to the Liberal Democrats in the sense that they went through quite a strong period after the European elections where they were on a high. They were being called our fourth largest party, even third largest party in some quarters, for quite a long time. And it would be wrong to say they were having a media honeymoon because the media, a large segment of it, was constantly attacking UKIP. But the party was doing well. Over the last month, though, based on opinion polls and so on, I think UKIP is going to have a disappointing night. I don't think they're going to do as well as they think they will. And I think that all the attention on UKIP will seem like a bit of an anticlimax. I think they're going to do well. I think they're going to do better than 2010. But just as the Lib Dems are not going to be wiped out, UKIP is not going to have the sort of party that they're expecting. I think they'll do well. Nigel Farage might win that South Thanet seat. I really don't know. I'm not there, so I can't really gauge the sentiments on the ground. There's some notable things about this election. One is a complete absence of the BNP. Now that's a good thing in my view because they're an extreme party, but they seem to be totally. I haven't heard them mentioned once. Um, I haven't even heard of them standing, or I don't know if the party has dissolved. I know they've got a new leader now. I don't know what exactly has happened. The SNP and Scotland are going to be a big issue, of course. There's speculation Labour is going to be wiped out in Scotland. Now, I don't know enough about the Labour Party in Scotland to know whether that's deserved or not. But as a unionist, I would hate to see the SNP get overwhelming power there. I mean, the way it's going, it sounds like Scotland's going to end up as a one-party situation. Um, because there's speculation Lib Dems will also lose the seats, and there's no Tories in Scotland. So you're going to have a situation where one party is dominating an entire constituent nation of the United Kingdom, and that's definitely going to change the ball game. What other parties can I comment on? Well, I've mentioned all the main ones. Independents. The thing about independents is they always tend to do well in areas where there is a specific issue of contention that none of the big parties are perceived to be really tackling. That's where independents tend to do well. Northern Ireland, I don't, even though that's where I'm from, I haven't really followed the situation in detail, so I can't comment how well the DUP is going to do against Sinn Féin and so on. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. In terms of seats, if I was to give a very, very loose speculation, I'm going to say Labour 290, Conservatives 285, SNP 38, Liberal Democrats 30, the Greens 2 or 3, UKIP 2 or 3, and then maybe 1 or 2 independents. That would be my speculation for the parties. Um, After that, anything can happen. So that's my speculation. We'll see what happens.